online makeup versus in real life makeup are two completely different beasts. And as someone who's been filming content for almost a decade now, I can tell you with certainty what looks good on camera does not always look good in real life and vice versa. But sometimes we forget this. And there's actually been a trend on TikTok recently that I'm loving where creators start with the camera super zoomed in and you can see everything. You can see peach fuzz, you can see texture, pores, lines, and then they pull the camera back and the makeup looks flawless. And this is just one of many examples of how the camera kind of distorts reality. But there are so many others. So today we're going to uncover some of these sneaky practices because I cannot tell you how many times I've seen a video from a business or a creator that was actually super deceptive and the audience has no idea. And I'm going to break down why all of these before and afters are essentially useless because they all use different camera tricks to deceive the viewer. I'm kind of thinking of this as a continuation of a video that I did a month and a half-ish ago called 5 Influencer Lies That We Have Normalized. If you haven't seen it yet, I will link it right here. Now let me be clear, it was not a hit piece on influencers. It was more so a video to provide some framework of how we can be smarter consumers when we interact with content that we see online and remember when to take things with a grain of salt. And today I have many more examples of that. I'll start with the slightly more obvious examples and then end with the very inconspicuous tricks that you probably have no idea about. The first thing you need to know is that a lot of makeup is not going to look like a lot of makeup on camera. It's funny too, there are so many days that I finish my makeup and in person I think, okay, this looks so bad. It's heavy, it's cakey, it's powdery, it's a lot. And then I sit down and film and I watch the footage back and I'm like, wow, I look amazing. But also the opposite happens. There's so many days I love my makeup in person. I'm so excited to like go out in the world afterwards, but I watch my footage back and I'm like, okay, it was not translating on camera. Honestly, there's no better example of this than the Meredith Duxbury Foundation Challenge of a few years ago. Like that would never look okay in person, but on camera, it doesn't look like as much makeup as it actually is. I was especially thinking of this the other day because I had to renew my license, and when I did my makeup for that, because I had to take a new photo, I went super bold. I was like, this needs to be high contrast. I need a ton of bronzer, very bold blush. And it was more makeup than I would typically wear. And I felt a little bit silly out and about with this like really bold high contrast look. But I'm very confident in the photos, it's gonna look completely normal because that's just kind of what cameras do. They diffuse things a little bit. It's less dramatic. And that's the thing, even with the highest quality camera, with the perfect settings, the perfect lighting, like nothing is gonna translate quite like it does in real life. Another big reason for this is the finish, and this really comes into play with makeup and makeup reviews. So anytime I see a powder review, I'm always a little bit skeptical because powder translates so well on camera because it is flat, it is matte, it's not going to be reflecting the light back, so it just looks very smooth. Even a bad performing powder that in person looks awful is going to look great on camera. So when you're seeing that before and after and it literally looks like magic, like the other side of their face is airbrushed or like completely filtered, be a little bit critical because it doesn't necessarily look like that in real life. Like I could probably take baby powder and put that on my face, film it, and it would still look very smooth. Pores are smoothed, lines are smoothed, powder is kind of magic. It's something to remember when you're viewing content, but it could also be a good tip if you're taking photos. I do recommend being a little bit more matte. And I will say you kind of notice this even in makeup themes. I think of like the Kardashians or Kylie Jenner, for example, always taking photos, always being filmed. Like you will notice she's pretty much always wearing matte makeup. That's because it photographs really well. Whereas really glowy makeup maybe in person looks beautiful, but on camera it's going to emphasize lines, it's going to reflect the light, it's going to make pores look bigger. It just generally won't photograph as well. Now, before we talk about lighting and I share some very candid examples on my own face, let's quickly thank today's sponsor. I'm so excited to be working with Wonder Skin again. You know they make my holy grail lip stain. I constantly rave about the shade Hush, which is my go-to, but they recently came out with Demure, which is what I have on my lips currently, and I actually paired that with their lip liner in the shade Mauve and the gloss in the shade Kiss. And I feel like the combo is this perfect kind of berry fall tone, which I don't normally go for, but I'm really loving. I'm especially reaching for their blading all day lip stains on a night that I need my lip combo to last. Like if I'm going to dinner, normally my lip would be disrupted by food, I'd have to touch up, but having the stain underneath is kind of like my insurance to know my lip combo is still gonna look good all night. There's really not a day that goes by that I'm not wearing something from Wonder Skin on my lips. And if you didn't know, they also started carrying them at Sephora recently as well. So thank you so much to Wonder Skin for partnering with me again today, and let's get back into it. And I know at this point in 2025, a lot of people know that lighting plays plays a role in the way that makeup looks on camera. Duh, we know this. But I want to throw in the refresher of kind of why and how that works. So I'll give you my example right now. I'm currently filming with natural light. There is a light behind me to fill in the background, but it's pointing at the wall. I'm filming with natural light right now. I think I am gonna have to pull out a light in a minute though, because the sun is setting. But a lot of times I'll hear people say, you know, I wish more creators would film with natural light because it's the most natural. And I understand that to some extent, but something to remember is that when I'm filming with natural light, my lighting source is coming at me just from this angle. And when light is coming just from this angle, it's going to hide a lot of shadows. It might hide some like under eye bags or smile lines, or anything on the face is going to be diffused because lighting is just coming from one angle. Whereas, and I got a light to demonstrate this, if the lighting is just coming from overhead, see how it's going to emphasize things like my under eyes or my smile lines compared to light that is just coming from in front of me, which is going to result in less shadows. Now, a sneaky way this is used to deceive a viewer is in a before and after photo. Here is the perfect example. Look at the before photo. It's pretty clear that they used an overhead lighting source. Maybe they were just in a regular room with overhead light, and we can tell because the brightness is on top of the forehead, right under the eyes. You can tell by where the shadows are that the light source is coming from above. In the second photo, you can tell by looking in her eye, in the eyeball, yes, literally in the eyeball, that the lighting source was coming from head on. So this before and after photo essentially tells you nothing because on one side the lighting is already exaggerating any lines, bags, wrinkles, and in the second photo the lighting is softening it. We're getting two different extremes. There was a video from Hannah Louise posted earlier this year titled "I'm 40, why do I look so young?" And one of the examples that she shared was what I'm saying here is that things look different on camera based on where the lighting is coming from because you're not seeing all the angles, and a lot of that is getting lost on camera even when it's not intentional. Okay, even with the perfect lighting setup, that is going to happen. And Hannah is the perfect example here because she has a phenomenal setup. I have seen it for myself. She has spent so much time and energy getting the lighting so accurate, getting the color so accurate, getting everything as close to what it looks like in person as possible. And yet, what we see on camera is still not going to be the same as what we would see in real life. And I think about this sometimes when I'm in different lighting conditions. The perfect example, one of my friend's bathrooms, I joke with her. I'm like, girl, if you are ever feeling down about your appearance, just know it is because your mirror is lying to you. That is like a fun house mirror. I don't know what it is about the lighting in her bathroom, but it is so harsh. I see everything. I look like my worst self. And I'm always telling her, I'm like, this is not reality. The lighting is completely distorting what's going on here. And it's really not reflective of reality. And that's something for us as viewers to be reminded when we're watching content and then we're looking at ourselves and thinking, a lot of it is the lighting. Another thing Hannah mentioned in that video was that when you see someone on camera, their face is moving, it's in motion, or it's posed. And in either scenario, your facial muscles are sitting in a different position than they would be if your face was just at rest. So comparing the way that your face looks when you see this random candid photo of yourself and you think, oh my gosh, that's so unflattering, and comparing it to some of the content you're seeing online, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're comparing apples to oranges. Another thing to be reminded when we're talking about cameras, video, is the depth and the role that lens distortion plays in the way that something looks. So when you pick up your phone and you take a selfie on your front camera, everything on your face is going to look different because the lens is so close to your face. Your nose will look bigger, your face will look more narrow, and all your features will kind of be distorted. What is more accurate is a photo taken further back. Now, how does this play into the concept here? This is very important for us to remember as viewers when we're seeing before and afters. I recently saw a video where an esthetician shared how med spas can use this to really deceive potential customers, because a before and after might look very accurate, but if you don't take into account that lens distortion, you're not really going to see it for what it is.
All right, my loves, I'm about to spill some real industry tea for you, okay? So this before and after that you see here is not accurate, okay? This is lens distortion. It's a technique that a lot of med spa or even plastic surgeons use to basically trick people all the time. Let me explain. So because people appear very differently, under different lens of camera lenses, the shorter the lens is, the more distorted one's face appears. So what's happening here is basically they use a shorter lens in the before to make her look uglier, but a longer lens for the after to, appreciate her beauty more properly. So the effect of the before versus after will look so much more dramatic. You remember the filter on TikTok where people basically get really close to the camera and then they back up, they look so much different and they'd be like, oh, is this what I really look like? This is pretty much the same thing. You see what they're doing here? So I'm gonna tell you how you can spot lens distortion so you don't get scammed. The first thing would be look at the ears. Do you see the before? You can barely see her ears, like it's very tucked behind. But if you look at the after, you can see her full ears. This is a telltale sign of lens distortion. Another effect that lens distortion has is on the nose. Under short lenses, the nose will appear so much larger than what it actually is. So guess which procedure take advantage of this effect all the time? Yeah, you guessed it. Rhinoplasty. Now you know, and honestly, once you see it, you will start seeing them everywhere.
The next little camera trick that can be quite deceiving to the viewer is a shift in color settings and white balance, all of the above. And the place I see this the most is in color season videos. I've seen a million videos where a creator will say, proof that color theory is real. They start with one color on, they pull the shirt down, you see a different color, and all of a sudden their face lights up and looks very different. Now, don't get me wrong. I recognize that we all have certain colors that we look really great in, and I'm not dismissing that. However, what you're seeing on camera has less to do with the color and more to do with the camera. So the videos you're seeing most likely filmed on an iPhone or some sort of phone. The cameras in our phones automatically adjust for things like white balance, exposure. Now, a lot of professional cameras, you can set these settings, but on a phone, it's gonna automatically adjust for that. So what that means is as you move different colors in and out of the frame, the phone is going to adjust for that. The white balance, for example, plays a really big role here. If you're starting with a really cool tone swatch and moving to a very warm tone swatch, the temperature of the video is going to change. And when the temperature changes to something warmer, any redness in your face is going to be very muted out. It's going to kind of disappear. Every time I see these videos, I go to look at the comments and so many people are like, wow, I really need to get a color analysis done. And I'm like, sure, if you want to do that, okay. But what actually happened here is the camera settings adjusted. And the reason I take such issue with this type of video is that 9 times out of 10, I go and click on the creator's bio, and of course, they're selling a personalized color analysis test. They are quite literally using this camera trick to scam people. And there are 2 ways that you as a viewer could identify this. One, you can screenshot before and after and look at the wall. See, does the color on the wall change? Even if it is just slightly, especially if it's something like the undertone, just know the undertone in the entire video was adjusted. So you can't take into account that change on their face because the camera did that. Another option, perhaps a little bit easier, is when you're watching, just take your hand, cover up the creator's face and everything else and look at the wall. Does the color of the wall change? Probably. And I really think the biggest way a lot of these like kind of deceitful little things come into play are in the before and afters. So certain things for us as viewers to remember and consider when we're looking at before and afters is the lighting. I will say, sometimes it's not possible to get the lighting exact, but something I try to do is keep my lighting as close as possible using the same conditions, the same light. And that's something we as viewers could look for. Like, does the lighting look similar or did it change? Because that's going to change the way that the footage or photo appears. And consider the lighting from multiple perspectives here. Is one photo really dark and full of shadows and the other one is really bright and really well lit? Well, then it's not an accurate before and after. Or is the lighting on the wall and some of the color settings adjusted? Again, not an accurate before and after. And not only the lighting, what is the angle? This is a big one I see in like before and afters for skincare. People will be like, my under eye bags are gone now. And I'm like, no, you were just at an angle where they were more on display and now they're less on display. Distance is another big one. Again, is the camera super up close in the one and super far away in the other? Well, that's going to distort the photo a little bit. And finally, again, we have to account for the makeup. Is it a glowy look? Well, things are going to look different than they would if it is a flat matte look. Again, powdery matte looks are going to be the camera's best friend. I don't think creators necessarily try to be deceitful in these ways, but it's something for us as consumers of this content to remember to prevent us from getting tricked along the way. So I hope you found this valuable. Thank you so much to Wonder Skin for partnering with me on today's video. I'll have part 1 right here, and I will go ahead and see you in my next one. Bye.